this is our final workshop, and I'm so glad all of you are still here because this is an amazing workshop you're going to get a lot of benefit from. Also, I want to mention to you that you're going to get a survey. It's a post-conference survey. We would appreciate you responding to it because it will give us some feedback on the survey so we can plan again for next year. So thank you for responding to it ahead of time. I'm going to thank you because I know all of you are going to fill it out. Thank you. Now, for our last panel, this panel is sponsored by United Home Care, and so thank you for that. And I would like to bring up our moderator, Tim Curtin, who's the Vice President of Community Services for Memorial Health. And our panelists, Davida M. Hodges, Dr. Davida Hodges. Robert Perez, who is an APRN and has so many credentials, I couldn't even mention all of them because he's so credentialed and has done so many things. Thank you, Robert. We have Dr. Lee Duncan, who is with Broward County Elderly and Veterans. Ileana Perez, who works for the agency, Area Agency on Aging, but is here as a caregiver to talk to you about caregiver tips. And soon I'll be sliding off the stage so everyone can fit on here. We have Vivian Peresci, who is our lead caregiver navigator at the Area Agency on Aging. And last but not least, Nicole Lavinier, who is a licensed social worker with she's the Human Services Manager at Broward County Elderly and Veterans. Now, I'm going to hand this mic to Tim so there's enough room on the stage for everyone.
Thank you, Charlotte. And let's give Charlotte and the whole team a big hand for staging this event today. Wonderful event. This is, how many years now, Charlotte? This is the fourth year that we've done this, the Caregiver Conference, Charlotte? Third one. This is the third conference, right? Caregivers Conference, third one. So we're looking forward to not only this panel today, this afternoon, but certainly the fourth annual in the future. So you did hear a little bit about the panel here, and I'm just going to read a little. Their bio is in the programs. I'm just going to read a little bit about these esteemed panelists. Lee Duncan is an LCSW. He's the Human Services Supervisor for the Alzheimer's Disease Initiative Program, and he's with Broward County Elderly and Veteran Services. He completed his PhD in the School of Social Work at Barry University. His dissertation was focused on the experience of caregivers of family members in the Black community. So he's got a lot of knowledge to share there. Dr. Davida Hodges, she's an MD, she's a gerontologist. She's double board certified physician. Yes, give her a hand, please. She completed a geriatrics fellowship at Duke University Medical Center before joining West Broward Internal Medicine here in South Florida. She's an active member of the American Geriatric Society and has presented nationally. So we're very lucky to have her here. Yes. Nicole Lavinier, she's an LCSW with the Human Services Manager with Broward County Elderly and Veteran Services. Yes, please. Yes, give it up for Nicole. Absolutely. Nicole is a licensed clinical social worker with over 25 years of experience in behavioral health care leadership. She manages the mental health services for Broward County Elderly and Veteran Services, providing counseling to caregivers and their clients in their homes. Vivian Peresci, and she's the Director of Community Affairs here at the Area Agency on Aging of Broward County. Give it up for Vivian. And as the Director of the Community Affairs, Vivian leads efforts to connect with local governments, nonprofits, and community leaders. She organizes more than 155 outreach events every year to help more people learn about what the Area on Aging does and the important programs available for older adults and their caregivers. So really getting that information out is wonderful. Thank you. Robert Perez, he's an APRN. Give it up for Robert. There he is. Robert is a highly skilled healthcare provider with over 20 years of nursing experience in both Florida and Texas. A Nova Southeastern University graduate, he specializes in critical care and neurological nursing. Robert began his career as with an associate's degree from Broward County Community College and later earned his advanced degrees in nursing and education from the University of Phoenix. All right, and last but certainly not least, Ileana Perez is the Aging Program Manager for the Area Agency on Aging of Broward County. Give it up for Ileana. She is a seasoned corporate compliance expert with over 20 years' experience in regulatory oversight and governance. She specializes in building effective compliance networks and supports integrity and operational efficiency. So that's the panel. Give it up for the panel and we'll start the questions. And thank you all for your time and sharing your expertise and knowledge with our audience today. So the first question is going to go to Dr. Hodges. What are some ways for a loved one living with dementia to maintain their brain health?
This is a great question. I want to start off by saying we know dementia is a progressive disease. So really what we're looking for is ways to delay that progression or slow down that progression. Of course, we know there are many medications out there and treatments you can get from a doctor. I'm not going to go into that today because that needs to be individualized to the person. But in general, we're talking about overall things for our brain health. The number one thing, as far as studies go, has shown that physical exercise is the number one treatment to slow the progression of dementia. This came out, I think, just a week ago. There was a study from Harvard that said people that did 3,000 to 7,000 steps per day showed a significant reduction in their amyloid deposits in their brain, which we know is the primary finding in Alzheimer's disease. So I always tell my patients to make sure they're doing exercise, but we know there's a big barrier to getting people out and walking, whatever it is that they like to do. That is actually usually a symptom of dementia. You know, dementia has apathy as one of the primary symptoms. So that's something that whether it's your doctor or a manager can address with you. How do we get over this apathy or lack of motivation? The internal parts of our brain that help us with internal motivation can be damaged in dementia. So that motivation needs to come from outside sources, like the caregiver. Next, I made a little list because I'm not good at public speaking. Our brain needs fuel, healthy fuel. This is pretty basic, but diet has been shown to be a big change in a person's progression of dementia. Lower inflammatory diets, like the Mediterranean diet, for example, is a big thing that has been shown to slow that progression. Other things that we know about keeping up our social interactions, our scheduling, and taking care of other medical conditions, like controlling our blood pressure, diabetes, heart disease, et cetera, et cetera. But I think the main takeaway is the exercise.
All right, thank you very much. Yes. And we'll come back to you, Doctor. Robert, this one's for you. For people who forget things every now and then, like myself and many others, right? Does that qualify for dementia?
Not necessarily. So, we forget things off and on throughout our day, right? We may leave our keys here, and you'll search the entire house looking for the keys. And then you'll be like, oh, I left it over here, where I always leave it, right? And then you may be looking for your wallet. And these things happen periodically. Doesn't mean you have dementia. It just means, things happen, right? You get just easily distracted. Maybe you're planning for a party. You have family coming over. You have activities and things, and you're not focused at that moment on where you want to place something. So it doesn't mean that you have a problem or there's something more serious. But this is where I'm going to have a little fun. I'm going to give you guys 3 words. Don't write it down. Don't put it in your phone, okay? 3 words. And then we're going to keep talking, And then I'm going to ask you guys to remember, you don't have to show me your hands or nothing, but you will know whether or not you've had, issues with maybe possibly wanting to take a look at something, right? So here are the words: banana, car, and sunrise. All right? Banana, car, and sunrise. You want to repeat it? You guys did that so well. All right, so when we get together again in a little bit, I'll ask you those same things. Now, don't share with your neighbor, right? Let them figure it out.
All right.
All right.
Thank you, Robert. Robert's giving you a test here. Give it up for Robert. Yeah. All right. All right. The next question is for Nicole. How does one avoid burnout as a caregiver? Tough one.
So the loaded question. One of the things that I always tell any and everyone when you're taking care of someone is you've got to just pause. Your expectations, you're expecting everything to go as scheduled. We kind of live our lives like that in general. We wake up, we've got alarms, we've got calendars, things are planned. The reality when you're taking care of someone, all of that, poof, out the window. In the blink of an eye. So, anyone that I'm working with, anyone that I talk to, I always say just give yourself some grace. You give a lot of other people grace, give yourself that grace as well. Things are not going to go as planned. Things are not going to go as scheduled. If they do, super. But you want to have that expectation that they're not. And so if you set the bar, I'm not going to say set the bar low, but if you set the bar at what's really just realistic, then you're not going to feel as disappointed, as stressed, as angry, as frustrated, as quickly as you could if you just, you realize that, hey, anything and everything might come up, might happen. And so if I'm prepared for that, then I should be just fine.
All right. Thank you very much. All right. Yes. Clap. Let's get in. All right. So we heard about caregiver burnout, a little bit about dementia. This question is for Vivian. Can you tell us how the Area on Aging Navigation Program helps caregivers, and how does the T-Care and TrueAlta programs work?
Happily. It's nice to see everyone, and it's great because it's after lunch, and all of you guys are still here. So that's a huge task. So thank you so much. We have a wonderful dedicated team of caregiver navigators. How to access them, just call our helpline or call the main line, and we can and just say, I'd like to speak to a navigator, please. They're responsible for assisting caregivers, supporting caregivers, as well as clients. So if there are clients, in the community that need to access our services, and then, there's always paperwork that goes in hand with that. So we go to a senior's home, to an older adult's home, and we pick up the paperwork and the information documentation that we need. So that's first and foremost. But we assist caregivers every single day with our T-Care program and our TrueAlta program. So the T-Care program is an assessment that's done specifically for caregivers. That's designed to pinpoint what burdens you're carrying. How close are you to burnout? Are you in crisis? All of that information is gathered through the questions that we ask you through the assessment. At which point then they actually can help you access additional services in the community. And they also call our caregivers once a week, once every 2 weeks, whatever frequency the caregiver desires. We're here to serve you, basically. And our TrueAlta program is a wonderful platform, an online platform that's accessible to caregivers 24 hours, 7 days a week. And it has a host of information in there. They also do their own workshops online as well. And they help you and support you by helping you become better caregivers, basically. So there's information on there, not just regarding dementia, but if you are caring for someone who has heart disease or renal disease, there's white papers and tutorials and a host of information on the TrueAlta platform that can assist you as well.
All right. Thank you, Vivian. All right, Lee Duncan. We're going to take this, there's some new folks in the room, maybe just for the first time, just becoming a caregiver, and it could be overwhelming. It could be it could just be, you could get drowned in it. So let's take it back a little bit here. What is caregiving? What do caregivers do, and how important are caregivers?
Thanks, Tim. Good afternoon, everybody. So I always like to start off when I talk about caregivers or caregiving with a quote from former First Lady Rosalind Carter, which is, there's only 4 types of people in this world. Those who have been caregivers, those who are caregivers, currently caregivers, those who will be caregivers, and those who are going to need caregivers. So caregiving basically touches all of us. That being said, I try to distinguish between what I call informal and formal caregiving. Like family, the informal I define as family members providing care for, families providing care for family members in need. And then you have what I know some people term as caregivers, but they're more paid CNAs, certified nursing assistants, home health aides, and personal care attendants. So I try to distinguish between those two. And obviously my focus is with the family caregivers. So both types of caregiving are difficult. And as Nicole mentioned, it can be stressful. It's very difficult physically, emotionally, and financially. But as a family caregiver, it is even more difficult, or at least emotionally and mentally difficult as a caregiver. Again, that being said, as a family caregiver, you have that closer relationship with your loved one. So my thoughts and my experiences tell me that there's positive experiences, and I think that's something that we should focus a little bit more. When you're taking care of your loved one, yes, we know it's difficult, extremely difficult, but there are those times when you learn more about yourself as a caregiver, strengths that you felt that you never had, things that you didn't believe you could do. I mean, caregiving isn't something that you expect. It's something that usually comes up on you unexpectedly. So when you find yourself in that position and you find yourself coping, or at least dealing with the caregiving experience, I want the caregivers in this room to kind of take a little bit of pride, if that's the right word, in what you do, and belief in yourself. And if no one else is acknowledging what you're doing, you need to acknowledge to yourself what you're doing, because it is difficult, but you are doing it, and it takes a special type of person. And that brings me to the importance of it, that without you, that person that you're caring for is going to be lost. And especially if they have dementia or Alzheimer's, they're dependent on you. And, what you're doing for them, just imagine where they would be without you. And in terms of a societal level, at least a macro level, without you, I think somebody said earlier in one of the previous panels that caregivers are the backbone of the health industry. I think it's worth about $600 billion worth of unpaid care. So, somebody talks about Medicaid and Medicare. Without caregivers, Medicare and Medicaid they couldn't manage what you do. So it's important from the societal level and for what you do for your loved one.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Duncan. Ileana, from another perspective, as a caregiver, can you share with us some advice for other caregivers using your own experiences?
One of the advices that I would take is to take time, whatever little bit of time you can, just to be by yourself without having that person right next to you. But even if it means you just go out into the patio, walk, and come back in, it's going to save you from blowing up, because especially when they get to the routine of asking you the same question 20 times, one right after the other. If you just take that little piece of time to go do something different, wash your face, go to the bathroom, wash your face, come back out, you're going to be in a calmer state and you're going to be able to continue dealing with it. Because it's not like you're always going to have that time. So make the best of the few seconds that you can get throughout the day. And that will help you to continue your caregiving duties. I've been a caregiver for 5 people. I am currently a caregiver for 2 of them that are still alive. My sister is the worst one right now because she is getting dementia, but she has moments that she is there and she's able to talk to you, have a conversation, talk about the past, all of that. But then there's moments where, like, I showed up to give her a bath so that we could go to the doctor. Well, why are you here? Because we're going to take a bath and you're going to go to the doctor. 20 minutes later, why did you come here? So those are the things that you continue to deal with. And I know that with her, it's going to get worse. So I'm prepared for that. But every breather you can get, take it. Don't waste it. Okay?
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, so we come back to Dr. Hodges. What kind of doctor should we be seeing for these issues?
There are a few options here. Ideally, your loved one should have a connection with their primary doctor, whether that's their family doctor or their internal medicine doctor, and neurologists for diagnoses or treatments. But if you're really lucky and you can find a geriatrician, that's ideally the best option, in my opinion. As we heard earlier, geriatricians are somewhat scarce these days, but this specialist will have additional training in dealing with complicated older adults and experience dealing with dementia and behaviors, things like that. So if you can find one, I know that's tough, that's a topic for another day, that would be ideal.
Okay, thank you very much. This question's for Robert. Robert, what does a first visit look like for a patient who has concerns regarding memory?
Usually when the patients show up to the office, right, they're being brought in. Some of them come in on their own because they notice that something's just not right, right? They're thinking, God, why am I forgetting this? I should be able to do this easily. And so they have their own concerns. Maybe someone brought it up to them at work or a family member, hey, you're kind of forgetting things. And then they say, you know what, let me go check this out because I hear the sooner I do something, the better it could be, right? Then you have the other patient who comes in with their family member who's concerned. My mom, she's forgetting things. She keeps asking me the same questions. And I tell her, and I tell her, and I tell her, but she keeps asking me the same questions. So on that note, a lot of times, the families are overwhelmed. They're tired. They don't know what to do. And sometimes just coming into the office, we are like a lifeboat. And they're hoping that, they can get into the boat and we can help navigate those waters for them. At the same time, the patient looks at us and they're scared because they hear the word Alzheimer's, dementia, right? And they're thinking, because the family may be talking about it, and because you're talking about it in the kitchen with your husband and your wife, doesn't mean your mom and your dad can't hear you. And they hear that, and then they start getting scared because they start thinking, oh my God, do I have Alzheimer's? Is this what's happening to me? And the thing is this, quick history thing. Back in the 1980s, right? Yeah, they knew about Alzheimer's, they knew about certain things, but they didn't really classify. They used to talk a lot about organic brain syndrome. That was flashed everywhere, OBS, organic brain syndrome. And then it's only with time, right? And people still have that conception of somebody who's feeble, somebody who is wearing diapers, somebody whose their gown is open and their back and they're walking down the hallway half naked. But that's not the case, right? We've learned so much in this time, right? In the 90s, we had the first drugs come out to help with Alzheimer's, right? Which was donazepam and memantine, right? And those seem to work for a while, right? And then they kind of wear off. And it's only recently, and I mean recently in the last 3 years, that we actually have drugs to slow down the progression of the disease. Prior to that, there was nothing. All we had was 2 drugs. I think what happened is my own personal joke, if you will. I think those people who were doing the research realized that, hey, you know what? I'm getting old. I could get this, and I need to fix something. I need to find something, discover something before I start having these problems, right? And so now it brings us to today. And we have these drugs called monoclonal antibody drugs, right? And they seem to put the brakes on the disease. And they're not going to stop it, they're just going to slow it down. So we talk about these things, when they come in, they see the social worker, they do the mini mental. Oh, by the way, let's talk about mini mental. Do you guys remember those 3 words? Oh, yes, you do? All right. I'm not going to put nobody on the spot. What's it? Okay, all right, you guys,
Bravo.
good for you guys.
Great job.
I'm proud. But you know what? If you didn't remember, that's okay too, right? This is just something for you to say, can I actually do this, right? So these tests are done with the social worker, and any one of us can do it, right? But they'll see the social worker first, they'll go through those cognitive exams, and then they'll bring it to us. Then we sit down with the patient and we have a discussion. And it's not a short discussion. When I sit down with you, I'm going to know you. So be prepared, bring a water, an IV, whatever, because we're going to be talking, right? And it's good because the thing is, how do I know you? You have a lifetime of experiences, a lifetime of things that you've done, accomplishments, maybe some failures you may kind of hidden away, but that's who you are. And so how do I know you? How can I really determine what's going on? And so I ask the questions, and I ask questions, and they start talking, and they start sharing, and then we start building that trust. And a lot of times the family members in the room, and I put them behind the patient, because I don't want the patient to see their family member, because you know what they're going to do? They're going to lean on them for support. And they'll look at that, well, yeah, Tommy, Nancy, how do we do that? No, he doesn't exist, or she doesn't exist. I need you to focus on me. So when we do that, then the pressure's all on them, and I try to make them feel comfortable, right? Because if you're nervous, how are you going to talk like I am right now? I'm really nervous, right? So I try to make them feel comfortable, and then we start having the exchange. Tell me about your family. Tell me about how you grew up. Tell me about, your children, right? And I ask them, how many kids do you have? They'll say, I have 3 children. And I say, can you tell me their birthdays? These are things that you would think someone would remember, right? You should be able to recall your son's birth or your daughter's birth or their birthday. And they can. And then they get embarrassed. And so we continue through these things. We do exercises to go about seeing exactly if they can, like a situation I use. I go, let's go to my favorite restaurant. Talk to me about what we would do in a restaurant. And I show them pictures and stuff, and I tell them, explain, put this in order for me. Tell me what you see. What would happen here? What would happen there? And I start to build a picture in myself in my head about what's going on with the patient. And then as time progresses, we get to the end, and we're like, you know what? I do see some challenges. And I explain what I see both to the patient and to the family member. And I explain to them, what is it we're going to do, right? The exams we're going to run, right? First, we need to rule out all the things that should be normal, right? An MRI, make sure that there's no gross mass in the brain, no cysts, no nothing. EEG, make sure that the electroactivity in the brain is running the way it should be. And neuropsychic valve and blood work. right? And then we get together and we discuss it later. So I'm gonna pass the mic to somebody else because I'll keep talking and talking. And talking.
Thank you, Robert. All right, yes. Nicole, okay, talked a lot about, obviously, caregiving. How does a loved one cope with the feelings of guilt when caregiving? There's a lot of feelings. If I get tired, I feel guilty. If I'm 5 minutes late coming home from work because of unexpected traffic, I'm feeling guilty. How does one work through that?
Yeah, so going back to what Dr. Duncan mentioned about, how great, I think caregivers, you really downplay how amazing it is, the work that you do. To his point, and to the point really of all the professionals I think who've spoken on the panels during the day, the work that you do, it really can't be, you can't even really give, you can give a dollar amount, but realistically 24/7 care, individualized to your own family members, there's no dollar amount for that. That's partly why you do it. Let's just be realistic about it. So kind of going back to what was said already, give yourself that grace. That's very important for you you've got to give yourself that. And so in doing that, you want to keep in mind, if you want to continue to be able to provide that care as well as you do, you must, and it's one of the things that I'm like adamant about, you must take care of yourself. You cannot let yourself fall. You rely on you, your family member relies on you. So then you become really number one. And don't feel bad about that. Don't feel shame, guilt. You want to keep in mind the perspective of, I'm not just doing this just to be selfish. I'm doing this because it's necessary. If I'm not here, who's going to take care of them? Yes, there probably would be some agency, some facility, but it wouldn't be you. And if you want it to be you, you have to make sure you're eating, you're sleeping, you're going to the doctor as well. You're doing everything you can to extend your life. Okay, that's critical. That's one of the things I always stress.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes. Well said. Now, Vivian, you have some of the solutions and programs here on the panel. So what is the Educate program, as in Age-U-Cate? What is the Age-U-Cate program, and how does an interested caregiver apply for the service?
So again, contact our helpline, 954-745-9779, and ask them to transfer you to a caregiver, navigator. The Educate system is an immersive experience. So what they do is they put goggles on you, and they put headphones on you, and they put gloves on you, and it's immersive experience. And then what they're trying to mimic is what your loved one would feel if that loved one that has dementia. And so the caregiver is put in that situation that you experience what dementia would feel like. And one, it's supposed to obviously make you more empathetic to what your loved one is going through, and educate you on why they react in the way that they do. And there's also some support as well with the program. We have our wonderful caregiver navigators that supply some training for you and support throughout the program. But that's the gist of it. It is supposed to again mimic that feeling that if you were to have dementia. And again, it's supposed to be an immersive experience so you can see exactly what your loved one is going through. Oh, it's 954-745-9779, and that's our elder helpline number. You're welcome.
All right. Dr. Duncan. We heard a lot about what caregivers do and the value of caregivers, the monetary value, and what brings family members into the caregiving role? How do they get there?
As I said earlier, it's not something that you kind of plan for. Normally, it takes you unexpectedly, but normally you see a family member that is declining, that needs help, and you make a decision that, okay, well, I'm going to have to take care of this person. Maybe it's because there's nobody else. Maybe it's because, and my thoughts are that the caregivers that we have, that the caregivers that I know, they have that demeanor, they have that heart, they have that compassion. So to me, it takes a special person to be a caregiver. Not everyone can do it, and not everyone does do it. I mean, you have one child that does it and another child that, for whatever reason, cannot do it. So essentially, what I discovered in my research basically was that, yes, you do it normally, usually, or at least initially, because it's a loved one, family member you care about. Then as that person becomes more debilitated, they need more care, they're more demanding, you do it because they're dependent on you. So there's that slight change or transition in their level of need and your daily routine. And you may not notice it, you may notice it, but invariably there is a change in your demeanor because you're more leaning towards the needs of your family member, whether that's because it is a family member or whether it's because you're just seeing that this person needs care. I do think there's a distinction there. And I think that is something that myself or we as professionals need to help our caregivers identify. Because if it is because, or whether it's because of a family member and something that you're doing out of affection, not so much compassion, but affection and your relationship to that person, or whether you're doing it because this is just something morally right to do, that person needs help, I'm able to help them, I'm going to help them. I think there is a distinction that we need to help our caregivers identify that distinction so that we know how better to serve them, how better to guide them, and what services might be more applicable to those people.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Duncan. Ileana, how do you balance your work and personal life with your caregiving responsibilities? And if you will, please share an example of that.
Well, that's probably the most difficult part of being a caregiver. I have been in administrative positions, which sometimes allows me freedom, but sometimes it does not, because I have to be there for some meeting, I have to coordinate certain things. So I've had to, in the past, especially with my mother, I had to hire somebody to be there when I could not be there. It did put me in a major financial situation because my sister took away her money that she was helping with, and then she convinced my brother to do the same thing because her thing was that mom should go to a nursing home. Mom was nowhere near needing to be in a nursing home. And that was always my mother's biggest fear, is that we would place her in a nursing home. So I took on the challenge. I did it. She died at home. So she was very happy with that. And she was never, ever in a nursing home or an ALF. So I'm proud of that because, thank you. As most of you who are caregivers, you know that meeting that challenge is very difficult. But that's how I ended up doing it. And if I had to leave because she fell or she was acting out for some reason and the aides couldn't help control her, then I would have to rush to my supervisor and say, I must leave. I will attend the meeting online. I will call in. I will take my computer home, and I will work from home to get everything else organized. Some people who are here, Guadalupe and Jessica, can attest to me having to do that quite a few times. They worked with me at United Home Care. So they knew that when I grabbed my bag and I ran out and I said, call me if you need me. That was a crisis situation going on, and I just had to leave and take care of her. And then work would resolve itself in the long run, in the process.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Dr. Hodges, how often should we see the doctor once this is identified?
I recommend to have a routine follow-up with your regular doctor about every 3 to 4 months. There may be something new or not. Part of what we do is we check in with our patient and also with the caregiver. And when there are support services that are needed, that's when we introduce them. I usually introduce all of my patients to the AAA and community resources in the beginning, but they may not need it at that time. So as we get to know each other over the years, establishing that rapport and really knowing, being comfortable with your doctor can help in the long run too. So yeah, every 3 to 4 months.
All right, thank you. All right, Robert, you had mentioned that there are new medications now out there for the treatment of Alzheimer's, but is there a cure for Alzheimer's?
So I briefly touched on that on the last segment before the banana, the car, and sunrise, right? So anyways, so just recently, in the last 3 years or so, we've had the formation, the discovery of these drugs and how they're working, right? The monoclonal antibody therapy. And what that does, it removes amyloid plaque from the brain. We have 2 right now. One is Kisunla, and the other one's called Leqembi, right? Now, these drugs, again, everybody thinks, okay, I can take it, this will be great. But you have to qualify for the medication, right? Because what happens? This is a neurodegenerative disease, right? And so remember those 3 words I just said a second ago? And no, I'm not being funny now. But there's a certain score that once you get below that, these drugs now become inaccessible to you. And the reason behind that is because too much damage has happened to the brain, right? Remember, the functional unit of the brain is the neuron, and that neuron cell is very susceptible to amyloid plaque and neurofibrillary tangles. As this occurs in the brain, the cells die, and it becomes harder for you to remember. So right now, we did this thing today, a little silly exercise, right? You say, well, I should have remembered that I missed one or whatever, right? That's today. Next year, hopefully I'm back, but next year, right? You may say, oh, wow, he did it again, but this time I can only remember one of the words, right? So you're thinking, wow, there's something going on. So what these drugs do, they're not a cure. They slow down the progress or the progression of disease, because as the disease continues to move, these functional units, the neurons, they begin to die. If you look on an MRI scan, right, or MRI scan is the best one. You see a nice, big, plump brain, right? That's when we're 15 years old. As we get older, that starts to kind of shrink a little bit, right? But when you have Alzheimer's disease or one of the other neurodegenerative diseases, you start to see a significant decrease in the size of the brain. So when that decreases, computing power goes down, and it becomes much more challenging to do things that you would do every day. So you say, Mom, can you go ahead and brush your teeth? And Mom sits there in front of the mirror, and she's looking, toothpaste, what's that thing called? A brush, right? And then and she has no clue how to put that together, right? And so these drugs now slow that down, right? So had we intervened earlier, we didn't have that option, but today we do, right? And people are becoming more and more aware. I've had patients who are in their 50s come in and find out that they have Alzheimer's disease. And it's a shame and the only reason they found out about it is because they were surfing the web and they came across and they said, hey, maybe this could be happening to me. And sure enough, when we do the test and we do all the workup, it's true. You do have this condition, but I do have something that can help us to buy time enough that maybe one day we can get this cure before time runs out. That's my whole thing with these two drugs, the Kisunla and the Leqembi, is that these drugs have opened a new pathway of looking at this disease that maybe the pharmaceutical companies can actually come to a point where they say, you know, we found it, how we can stop it. We can't fix what's gone, but we can stop it right here in its tracks, and then we can figure out how to prevent it completely, right? The modifiable risk factors, yes, that can help, but to find something from preventing it from even occurring, right? So that's the whole goal, and that's my goal, at least, for my patients. And by the way, I've seen quite a few in here. I'm not ignoring you. I cannot say hello or acknowledge you because that would be a break of confidence. But if you want to come by and say hello to me, you're more than welcome to. Okay?
All right. Well, thank you for that, Robert. Well done. All right. Now, we heard a lot about burnout, right? We heard about balancing as a caregiver, guilt. Nicole, do you think it is selfish for a caregiver to put their needs first?
Definitely not. So based on what we've already discussed about burnout and just trying to stay alive and balancing everything that you're doing, it definitely isn't selfish. And I think that when we talk about guilt and just all of the emotions that, you know, people go through as you're taking care of your loved one, that's one of the things that you start to feel like, well, maybe I shouldn't go to sleep. And what if something happens? And then there's just all of these thoughts that come up. If you take 2 seconds, what could go wrong? And you just want to, it's critical. What Ileana said, critical. You've got to take that moment because the frustration, you know, all of the resentment, all the anger, that stuff tends to build if you don't give it an outlet. So you really have to take a moment. And if you get only a couple seconds, take it. You know, take that time to kind of catch your breath and say, okay, I think I can do this again. I'm ready to go again. And then, you know, you get going. But you've got to, as I said before, if you want to extend the time that you're taking care of your loved one, you have to extend your life. That's really the basic formula to it. Take care of yourself so that you can take care of you and your loved one.
All right, thank you. Kind of like the yes. Kind of like when we fly, they tell you to put your mask on first so you could help others, right? Similar. Okay, so Area on Aging has so many programs and services. Vivian, can you talk a little bit about the Tranquility and the EARS products and services, please?
Thank you. So Tranquility actually was one of our vendors. They were right outside. They provide through us, provide a fall detection system. So they look, I'm not sure if they're in the room, they look like hockey pucks to me, where they are wireless and they are put in the living areas. The living room, bathroom, kitchen, places where obviously seniors are more likely to fall. And at which point it is these devices are 4D radar. So they're not invasive, they're not cameras, they're not anything like that. They actually are able to detect when a person falls. And then when a person falls, they actually call a phone tree. First they call the next of kin, and then they call EMS if the next of kin does not respond. And we've had a wonderful success with them. Our caregivers love it, and it provides that sense of solace where the caregiver can leave the care recipient at home and have peace of mind that the person, if the person falls, that they're going to be notified. We also have the wearables, as Tim mentioned before, the EARS, the emergency alert response systems, which are the wearables. Again, we all know, I've fallen, I can't get up, so you press it, and again, it provides either EMS can come and assist you. And again, both of these systems provide that the caregiver that peace of mind that if their loved one does fall, that they're able to get assistance. And again, call our helpline, 954-745-9779.
That's the answer. That's the answer. No, and do use that phone. Please use the phone. Call the helpline. They're available all the time. They're quick responders, and they make things happen. Lee, how important is it for a caregiver to ask for help? I know that sometimes folks don't want to, but talk about how important that is to ask for assistance.
as Nicole mentioned, self-help is caregiving number 101. Yeah, as you mentioned, my experience that you get those family caregivers that initially see themselves as just, that's my wife, that's my husband, that's my mother, that's my father. I'm just going to take care of them. And, then they don't even think about, asking for help. But, I can guarantee you that caregiving cannot be done alone. One person cannot, if you want to successfully take care of somebody, it cannot be done alone. So advice is to incorporate or develop a care team. Whether it's speaking to your doctor, as Dr. DeVita mentioned, whether it's speaking to a pastor, speaking to hopefully another family member that's willing to help, neighbors, friends, church members, you need to develop a network of care. My takeaway, if you don't take anything else away, my takeaway is consult a social worker, consult a case manager, someone that can help you to navigate the system of care. Because, as I think Ms. Charlotte mentioned earlier, that we have difficulties navigating ourselves sometimes, and we're supposed to be in the network. So for caregivers who are new to asking for help, looking for resources, find that person that's going to help you to navigate that spectrum of care. But, there are services out there for you. Please don't, we've mentioned guilt and pride, don't be too proud to ask for help. It takes a village. My conception is it takes a village, and you can't do it by yourself. So don't think you can. I mean, you may think you can, but there's going to come that point where you have to realize what's best for the loved one. You obviously love your care recipient, and you're doing your best for your care recipient. And again, another takeaway is that whatever you feel to do for that care recipient is going to be the right thing. But once you're in the midst of caring for that person, and your energy, your time, your efforts are going into taking care of that person, you kind of like lose sight of the woods for the trees. So sometimes you need to take a step back and have that conversation with someone and get a different perspective on what you're doing. So again, just don't be too proud to ask for help.
All right, good advice. Ileana, what is the most rewarding and fulfilling part of being a caregiver?
That I'm giving back to the people that raised me, who made a big difference in my life, who gave everything they had. I'm Cuban. I was born in Cuba, but I've been here since I was 2 years old, thanks to my parents, my brother, and my sister, and my sister-in-law. So it's a reward to have been able and to continue to give back to them. That, to me, has been my biggest reward in life.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. It's certainly a heavy lift, and I saw a poster the other day that caregivers, that's my superpower. And I think, when you think about it, you've got to have a superpower to be a caregiver. Dr. Hodges, as a caregiver, what symptoms should alert me to contact my loved one's doctor? What spurs that?
When there is a new change that's sudden, this is something that should prompt you to call the doctor. When there's a fall, if the person fell, if there's a new behavior that's out of the ordinary, if there is a sign of an infection, a new hallucination, if the person left and got lost. These are new changes that should prompt a discussion with the doctor. Maybe it's time that we need an alert necklace, or we need to put something installed in the home to watch out for falls. Maybe we need a new plan for not being alone and not being left at home for any amount of time. Perhaps there needs to be a new plan for sundowning time of day, whether that's a new change in the schedule. Maybe it's a new medication that's needed to keep the person safe and the caregiver safe. But these are the times for a check-in and a time where we can offer assistance or resources.
Okay, thank you. Robert, what can I do to help prevent myself from acquiring Alzheimer's?
There's not much. No, I'm just joking. So,
Besides the banana.
yeah,
car,
the banana, the car, and what else? Sunrise.
sunrise. I said sunshine.
Right? All right.
I'm in
yeah.
trouble.
So, you know what? Honestly, you can modify all the risk factors that you have. If you're overweight, lose the weight. If you're not eating healthy, start eating healthy, right? Start doing things that are beneficial to you, not what makes you feel good, right? So if you drink a lot of alcohol, probably not the best, right? What does alcohol do? Cooks your brain cells, right? So you want to preserve every one of those suckers. You don't want to lose them to alcohol, right? Because that's not the way to go. If you smoke, what does the smoke do? It goes to the brain. What does the brain? How does the brain react to smoke? They die. The cells die. So you're already fighting an uphill battle with Alzheimer's. And now you're going to add alcohol and tobacco and, God forbid, drugs, right? Those things do not work. What does work is exercise, like the doctor stated earlier. Exercise is probably, yes, don't look at me, all right? But exercise is probably the best thing for you, right? So if you ever lived in a foreign country or come from a country where, there's a widespread of poverty, right? You might see a gentleman cutting the grass with a machete, and he's 95 years old, looks better than anybody in here, right? So I lived one time in another country, and a gentleman was cutting the grass with a machete, and he was, he was like Rambo, right? And it was like 99 degrees because this is in the Caribbean. And he's like, I see him struggling. I'm like, I look at my brother, I go, dude, this guy, we need to change something. So I go to him, I go, listen, you don't have to, you're done. You just go home, drink some water, relax, because I don't want to have a heart attack here, right? Because, emergency services in the Caribbean are not the best, right? Nothing against anybody in there, okay? And then I asked him, how old are you, sir? He goes, I'm 95 years old. And I said, definitely stop. You're not doing anything anymore, right? So exercise is great. Eating a good, healthy meal plan. And when we kick around the term the Mediterranean-style diet, it is the best, right? That's the one that has the low carbohydrates, getting away from all these seed oils, eating good source of protein, salads, all the things that we don't like to do, as evident moi, right? But those are things that we should be doing, okay? Because those are things that are going to give us an extra day. And for somebody who has Alzheimer's, what they would do to have an extra day, right? An extra day of memories, an extra day of knowing who my grandchildren are, an extra day of knowing, gee, you know what? I remember that. I used to do this and I used to do that. And again, going back when I see patients, when they tell me the things that they used to do, right? I look at that and I think my own mother, right? And say, Mom, she used to do this, she used to do that. And you get a little bit of sentimental in there, right? And some of those visits, but it's only natural. But good things is exercise, exercise, exercise. Eat right, drink plenty of water, stay away from all the things you should stay away from. And if you do those things, you really decrease the chance of this thing popping up on you. And if it does, you're going to keep it at bay as long as you can, right, by doing these things, right? So, yeah, that's it.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Robert. Nicole, I know we heard a lot about, balancing the caregiver's life with their responsibilities of being a caregiver and all the other life responsibilities one has. Do you have any other thoughts or suggestions on how do we balance life with caregiving? How can we do that?
So I think one of the things I want to add to that, just listening to the comments about going to the doctor, one of the things that I always tell caregivers is at some point, if you feel like it's just becoming too much, definitely talk to your doctor, talk to your loved one's doctor about, hey, I'm just feeling a bit overwhelmed with this. Don't wait until things start to really crash around you or you're really like hitting the roof and you're just done. You don't want to do that. You want to reach out to a professional. And at some point, one of the things that I'm trying to, it's almost like a personal mission at this point, to get, people to do is talk to a therapist. I know it sounds a bit crazy. A lot of the caregivers, Thank you for that. Over there in the room, a little louder for the people. Yeah. So I will say as someone, when I was going through school, I was one of the people, and I try to kind of explain this to a lot of, especially case managers. When I was a case manager, I was like, therapy? Oh, for the people who don't have friends, who don't have family, they can't find somebody to talk to. But as I went further along in school, I remember I had a shout out to the supervisor who told me this too. And she said, if you don't believe in therapy, then you should not be a therapist. I mean, it just seems kind of like common sense, but, and what I've realized through the years is it's great to have someone who is not a friend, a family member, no knock on the pastors. Pastors are great, but someone who doesn't know you really intimately to give you some feedback, to hear what you have to say, no judgment, and just kind of say, hey, have you thought about this? Have you tried this? This is what I'm hearing. This is what I'm seeing. You want to try to invest in that the same way you invest in your dental care, your primary care, mental health, mental wellness. It's just as critical. And you want to take care of that part of yourself as well, because that stress will kill you, whether you're caregiving or not. So that's probably the last thing that I want to add, that at some point, if you feel like you need it, don't be, to Lee's point, don't be ashamed or embarrassed to reach out to a therapist.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Nicole. Vivian, you talked a lot about the services that Area on Aging provides. Any other services that you'd like to mention?
We have a host of services that my colleague Liz Lombardo touched upon. And I know that in each of the packets, the bags, we have our brochure that has detailed information on the back regarding all of our services. So the last thing I want to say is as Charlotte mentioned, we do have a wonderful outreach team that will be more than happy to come out to your church, your synagogue, your temple, houses of worship, HOA meetings, whatever the case may be, to help us, spread the word about our services. We have a PowerPoint presentation that has more details on it that we can certainly come out and do a presentation for you. So please don't hesitate to, again, give us a call. Ask for me, Vivian, and I will be more than happy to come out, or one of my other colleagues to come out to your place of worship or HOA and do a presentation, a full detailed presentation for you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Vivian. All right. Yes, please. Lee, what are some things, practical things that we can do to help our loved ones struggling with this at home, or if safety related or any other way? What are some of the things we could do, practical things we could do in the home?
If you're talking about the caregivers trying to help their loved ones, I think Dr. DeVita mentioned falling. Depending on where you live and what type of floor you have, if it's a hard floor, tiled floor, you may want to put some rugs down around the bedside if your loved ones has a tendency to fall out of bed. You probably want to make sure that they're wearing rubber-soled shoes, because I know that I have a sister who's taking care of her husband, my brother-in-law, and he has a tendency to shuffle. So it's ideally to put like rubber soles on his feet so that he isn't going to slip. Again, I would also go back to the caregiving network, care network. Obviously, also always make sure someone is with your loved one. If you need to leave the home for whatever reason, if you put like a network into place where you can call on someone to stay with that person whilst you leave the home. As you know, Robert mentioned, you want to try to get them to exercise if they can, take them for walks and stuff like that. You probably want to make sure they're obviously eating well, sleeping as much as you can. I know sleep is another issue. And the brain exercises, puzzles, crosswords, stuff like that. If you can, get them to do that stuff. I think daycare is a great service where you get them to go to a center where they're going to have socialization, they're going to have company, they're going to be interacting with other people, and it gives you a bit of a break at the same time. I think daycare is a great service for our loved ones. For our caregivers, I definitely recommend caregiver support group as well. And just educate yourself, get as much education as you can about your loved one's condition, so that you're able to adjust and, I guess, provide what you can do whilst you can. And maybe get yourself trained. Because as I mentioned before, caregiving isn't something that you're expecting. You're not trained for it, but it's like on the job type of training. But where you can get educated and trained for what your loved one needs, then I would advise that as well.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Duncan. All right, this is the last question. Then I'm going to come down to the floor like Phil Donahue used to, run around with a microphone if anybody has any questions. All right, so Ileana, what is the most challenging part of being a caregiver, and what is the one thing you'd like folks to leave with based on your experiences in caregiving?
The most challenging part is accepting that you can't be there 24 hours a day, that you do need breaks. You do need a support system. I paid for somebody to be there while I was at work. And then I do have a niece, and her husband would help me out a lot too. And even my nephew, who is much younger, the lady that I had would call him and say, listen, I need this to make your grandma's meal. Can you go get it? And he'd go and get it and spend some time with his grandmother, and made her extremely happy, because the minute I called, the first thing I heard is Alex was here. And he brought me this and he brought me that. But you do need to take breaks. So if you can get your family to replace you for a day or two in the caregiving process, then that gives you a break of a day or two that you can see another world and come back and be able to deal with it again. So I would suggest that you try to build that world around you where you're not just the only one there, but several people are helping you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ileana. All right, so David has a microphone. And this gentleman here, any questions, please, in the back? Whoa, right here in one. Here we go. Good.
I want to ask Robert. Hi, Robert. I want to ask you, my husband has vascular dementia. Would the medications that you talked about help in that regard?
All right. So the drugs I was talking about, the lecanemab and the donanemab, right? Lecanemab and Casella would not work, right, in this situation, because those are predominantly, well, they're only for Alzheimer's and the amyloid plaque, right? So they would not help them out, right? It's unfortunate. The thing is, with one drug leads to another drug. And the hope is that we start connecting these dots and we're able to start preventing some of these things. And so that's my hope for all of us, okay? I'm so sorry. All right.
No? Okay. Good afternoon. I have a question for Miss Ileana. Hi, Miss Ileana. So I work at the Memory Disorder Center, and one of our biggest challenge is with the caregivers because of everything that they're going through. We have a patient currently, she's the caregiver for her spouse, and she also have her medical situation going on as well. So the last time that we saw her spouse, she was expressing to us that she can't leave him alone. They are on a fixed income. They're not able to have an aide to come to the house. So she had to go to the hospital and she had to bring her husband with her. And they had to make a an arrangement so that he could stay with her while she was being taken care of. And he's the one that has the dementia. So we have a lot of the patients where there are the only provider, the caregiver, I mean to say, or that they're on a fixed income. They're not able to. So I remember you mentioned earlier that you are able to leave your job, and some people don't have that type of flexibility exactly, and that they have to work. So what advice, we do have a social worker, but at the same time, what advice can you provide so we can kind of guide our patients?
First of all, I would find out if they're eligible for one of the programs that exist, such as the managed long-term care, the community care for the elderly, the Alzheimer's disease initiative program. And they, with the long-term care, for a very limited time, they can even place that person in an ALF while the spouse is getting their care. So it would allow them the freedom to be able to take care of their healthcare needs while their client, their loved one, is being cared for. But they would have to get into one of those programs. And if they have limited income, it sounds like they would totally be eligible for one of those programs in order to assist them. As far as if they have to work and they can't get out of work, then the only alternative I can think of would be to find somewhere that they can work and work from home. There's a lot of opportunities showing up now for individuals to work from home. And then that would allow them to still be there for their loved one, but also work at home. And they won't be missing anything in that process.
This question is for Robert. What are the side effects of those drugs that help remove the amyloid plaque?
Okay, that's a good question. So with those drugs, there's a condition that's called ARIA, amyloid-related imaging abnormalities, right? So for these drugs, we need to do, vigilance, right? And the MRIs, tracking them at the beginning, because that's when it's most common, right? So you can have ARIA-E, which is edema, water on the brain, if you could say that. You can have ARIA-H, which is for the microhemorrhages, and ARIA-H again, but this is siderosis. And those are blood products that degrade from this microhemorrhages. And so we have to do MRIs continuously at the beginning, because once you go past 6 months or so, that kind of begins to decrease. Still, we always ask, how are you doing? We do the callbacks, find out how the infusion went. And but at the beginning, we're doing the MRIs, just checking. And it's not just any radiologist that can read that, right? So patients will go, I'm not going to say where, but they go to different places and they have the MRI. And the MRI comes back, everything's good, no pathology. I go, no. This patient's on this drug. You need to look for these. And then we get like, well, the doctor, this or that. So we do all our internal MRIs and in-house for patients who are on these drugs, only because the radiologists at our hospital, not that we're anything, yeah, we are, but the radiologists have been trained to look for this. They're looking for this complication, right? And yes, there are patients who develop ARIA-H, right? They start having microbleeds. And unfortunately for those patients, they have to come out of therapy. Why? The big risk is having a real big hemorrhage, right? An intracerebral hemorrhage, where there it could cost you your life, or severe disability, right? Loss of mobility on one side of the body, and so we're very careful about that because given those drugs, again, an aspirin, right? You take aspirin every day. Well, what's the biggest complication with aspirin? Bleeding, right, in your gut. So something that we take so much for granted every day, and it can have this potential side effect. Yet with these drugs, we know what we're looking for. So we need to have the right doctor read those images and be able to, interpret them correctly. And then it's for us to see and notify the family, listen, you need to come in, this is what's going on, and we walk them through that. So it's not an easy 1, 2, 3, but we have to follow those steps to make sure we keep them safe. So I hope that answered your question.
Anything I might have?
Oh, wait, are you?
Oh, that's what I thought. Oh, never mind. All right.
You want to ask a question?
I don't want to copy you.
Oh, I didn't know who was asking, I'm sorry.
You want to ask a question?
Sure.
Go ahead, just hold it right up there.
Up there? Oh, wow. Okay. I learned a little something just now. Yeah, I guess my most important thing that I'm worried about is my ability to get away from different parts of this community where I would be able to talk with people. Like so? That's better?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Thank you. All right. So somebody who has been read with me, been seen with me by several different places, and then got fairly well driven ways of getting what you said with the stuff that any of these things that we could have in our hands, that could be a long time. That could be a long wait. So I'm not quite sure yet how to wonder about that. But I also know that there's other people around that I'm going to need to probably resend for.
We understand.
Thank you.
We understand.
Thank you. Wait.
Good afternoon. My name is Maribel, and I'm gonna give you thank you for all this program. It's really help to understand better. It's like a schedule A, B, C, D, or A to C, but on the daily basis, every day is something new. It's a big challenge. Honestly, it's a lot. I hear a lot in my own life. Everything happened for good. And when you had a diagnostic for somebody, it's right there, you get in shock. And then you have to process your emotion and put yourself, and you need to be here. It's time for everything. It's time for cry. No, it's not time for crying right now. Like the doctor say over there, the best tool for me is when I ask God how good this can be. And I hear in my heart, be like me. Learning to be compassionate because it's the only truth. You're gonna need it every day, because in this situation, every day is something new, something unexpected. And then you have to be connected with Him to see how you're going to react, what you're going to do, what strategy you're going to action. So I'm going to give you thank yous to all the people who come here to learn and the people who come here to teach us. And like the lady who talked before me, she covered more of the question I have is the part of the financial system. In my case, I don't have no choice. It has to be in my house. I cannot be in the office because I have to be present 24/7 for him. So I never imagined myself to be in the position of see the financial, because it's not gonna be covered the way I normally do all my life. But I have a lot of information today. I'm going to put those in action to see how can I help myself, because I want to be, he's such an amazing human being. And I want to be with him all the time in me. I don't want to put him in any home or in any group. I want to be there for him. And God, I know God's going to help me to have that goal in my life.
Hello. Yeah, I just want to thank you for sharing. It's very brave of you to stand up and share like that. And just want to remind you that, as you mentioned, it takes that compassion, it takes that care, that love to do what you do. So don't ever forget that. But just remember that, because of your affection to your loved one, whatever decision you make, as you mentioned, every day is a different challenge. Every day something new comes up. But whatever decision you make is going to be the right one.
My question is in reference to the monoclonal antibodies. Does anybody know if this medication is okay for a patient that has an aneurysm?
So an aneurysm, right? First, we would have to see about if we can fix the aneurysm, right? There's different techniques surgically with a neurointerventionist that could seal off the aneurysm, okay? And then once that is done and the patient, that the period of the stent that they place or the pipeline that they put in has passed, then we can start looking up starting maybe those drugs, right? But we have to make sure that the aneurysm is secured, that they're out of therapy for the anticoagulant to make sure that there's no problem there with the stents getting occluded and causing a stroke. So at that point, we would have to eliminate all that, and that could be 6 months or a little bit longer before we could even consider using those drugs, right? Because the thing is, if we fix, let's say not fix, but if we treat the memory disorder, we could actually put them at harm to have a bleed, and then they have an intracerebral hemorrhage. Again, what does the benefit outweigh the risk? No. I would deal first with the one thing, the aneurysm, make sure that's secure, that's done, and then we can talk about possibly starting treatment, because it depends. How big is the aneurysm, right? Where is it located, right? How much work needed to be done to repair that area before we can even consider using those type of medications? If it was my family member, I'd be like, you know what? I like you just the way you are, and I want to keep you around. And unfortunately, this therapy may not be the best one for you, because in trying to save your life, I may end up causing you harm. And, one of the first things we learn is to do no harm. So that's where I would be with that. That would be my advice if I was talking to somebody.
All right, thank you. We have time for one last question. Now, the panelists will be here if you want to talk to them individually. Right after this, we have one more, so you go. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Robert, again. My husband is a veteran, and he sees a geriatric doctor, and he has had some of the tests that you talk about in your memory care center. Would it be beneficial to go to the memory care center and have him evaluated with a second set of eyes?
Yes. And not that we're anything special, but we are, right? I believe in what we do, right? And I always tell my patients, I go, listen, I'm just one person that's looking at, let's say, your husband. And this is what I'm seeing. But I welcome you to challenge what I'm saying. And I don't mean that in a negative way. Like if it was my wife, I'd be like, honey, you know, this doctor said this, and I see what they're saying, but let's get another set of eyes on this just to make sure we're confirming, you know, the same diagnosis, or both physicians are, both providers are looking at the same picture, right? And yes, you might have some of those tests done, but there are certain tests that we do, particularly for Alzheimer's or for Lewy body, and that's going to start December 1st, which we'll be doing the alpha synuclein test, the SYN1 test, where we do biopsies to look for the presence of Lewy bodies. But that's a whole nother topic for another day. But yeah, I would get another opinion.
I agree. And I send my patients over to the memory disorders clinic for a second opinion as well. Yeah. Yeah.
She's a very nice doctor, by the way. So.
Okay, this gentleman, I'm sorry, you're right, go ahead. Oops. Is it on? 1, 2, 3. My question, what are the consequences for the caregiver to be emotionally involved with the feelings of the patient?
Well, you can't avoid. So you can't avoid your emotions. So it's a matter of acknowledging what emotions you have, and you just need to understand that to feel guilty, to have regrets, to feel sadness, you know, or anger. They're natural and normal emotions to have. You know, consequences are, if you hold them down and don't acknowledge them, you'd like to have negative consequences. So it's advisable to acknowledge them. As Nicole mentioned, maybe talk to a therapist so that you can kind of like bring them out, understand them better. But it's normal to feel all of those type of emotions.
Kind of echo what Lee said. So for anyone who's just kind of hesitant in terms of speaking to a therapist, or you're feeling like, I don't know if I need to jump into that just yet, you can start with small steps. You can do things like tracking your emotions. You can journal. You know, there's some people who, if you don't want to write, you can always record like, oh, today was a rough day. I just really felt like I was losing it. You know, but you've got to be able to kind of see what the theme is. So by the time, and it is helpful too when you do actually speak to your doctor. I always tell people, talk to the medical first, because maybe something medically is going on with you before it's even something psychiatrically. So you want to rule out, is there anything going on with my medical? Once you get that cleared, then you get the next step for the therapist. But you want to track your emotions. So when you go to your primary, you can say, hey, for the last month out of these, 31 days, I've felt depressed or anger or like unreasonably frustrated or, just majorly angry for like 7 days or 14 days. They're going to want to know that information, and that helps in terms of what they recommend to you. So you want to starting to track that. But to Lee's point, it's natural, to be connected to that, to go through the range of emotions. You'll cycle from the happy to the sad to the angry to the back to this happy again. That's human nature. But definitely track it so that you have a sense of, I think there's something going on and I need to talk to someone. That's really the key. It's not to just kind of shake it away and say, nah, it's just all in my head, because that's a dangerous place to be.
Vivian, you might be the one to answer this. You mentioned a program, Trualta.
Trualta.
How do you spell that? What is that?
Trualta, it's Trualta.
Oh, okay, yes, I remember seeing that in the paperwork, some of the paperwork. And also, one of the things that I haven't heard mentioned at all really is services, cleaning services, something along those lines. Would a navigator be able to help me find something in that area? I mean, because that would be a serious help. But that's it, and thank you for all of you for being here.
Okay, I'd be happy to talk to you, offline.
Just quickly, you talked about cleaning services. Basically, my agency, we provide a series of services through our community care for the elderly program and my program, which is the Alzheimer's Disease Initiative program. My program doesn't really do cleaning per se. We provide what is called respite care because we focus on our caregivers and basically try to give our caregivers a bit of a respite. But our community care for the elderly program does provide what we call house making. Again, okay, and we also have a CDC program, Consumer Directed Care program, that also does a little bit of house making. It doesn't do like extensive cleaning. It does very basic type cleaning. So that's one option for you.
All right.
I just wanted to clarify that to become qualified for the CC program, you have to go through our screening process, but under that program, you can get cleaning services that are paid for. Otherwise, we don't have any other program that actually pays for them at the area agency. You would go through our screening, call the helpline, 954-745-9779, and you would go through the screening process. And then if you're found to be eligible for CCE, that's under Broward County Elderly and Veterans.
All right. Any other last question? Anybody? One more left before they throw us out of here. Okay, in the back.
Hi, good afternoon. Don't be scared. I have 3 topics. Okay, for the first thing regarding the person who said something about not being able to leave work, I would encourage you to see if your company offers FMLA, would allow you to have intermittent status. So if you have to leave, then it should be covered. Secondly, in regards to the housekeeping, you may want to contact your insurance. I know Humana has helper bees. It's a very important program. A lot of people do not know about helper bees, but they do offer homemaking and personal care. And third, I wanted to know what was the youngest age of Alzheimer's that you've experienced?
I mostly see older adults over 65, but I have diagnosed in the 50s, early 50s.
So have I.
So I do want to thank the panel. Please give it up for the panel up here. Panel of experts.